So, I want to talk about object-oriented programming. So, I know you guys had this in Python. So I know it's been a while. I know you talked about it like for a day in JavaScript. But does anybody want to take a stab at a definition of object-oriented programming? No? Nobody. Adib, you're teasing me. I see your lips moving. Are you answering my question or are you talking to yourself?
Um, I could read the Google definition.
I'm gonna
Object-oriented
call,
programming is a programming paradigm based on the concept of objects which can contain data and code.
cool.
It's not a great definition.
That's perfect, dude. I'm done. I'm done. So let's go. We'll take a break. No. So yeah, that's not very helpful, right? So the way I like to think of object-oriented programming is object-oriented programming is the idea that our programs are virtualizations of real life. Okay. So if we have a game, right, we're playing a asteroid sort of game, right? So we would have objects or classes that we define. This is what our shooter is going to have. This is what an asteroid is going to have, right? So but gaming is sort of the go-to how people explain object-oriented programming, but it's not the only thing, right? um, in some cases the virtualization is better than the reality. Okay, so I'm, as you can see from the gray hairs, when I learned to type on a typewriter, like literally, like it was clicked and clacked, and it was, I mean, it was electric, but it was an actual, I put paper in it and type. That's how I learned to type, right? So if you've, I know you've all used Microsoft Word or some sort of word processing program. That is a virtualization of a typewriter, right? And trust me, it's better. It's a better experience than using an actual typewriter. So object-oriented programming is the idea that we can virtualize our reality, and in some cases it's better, right? So like all the cut and paste and stuff you do, we actually used to cut the paper and paste it on, and I'm serious. That's where the terms come from. So cutting and pasting for you guys is, it doesn't involve any sort of glue, right? You guys just copy and paste it. So object-oriented programming is the paradigm where we group functionality and properties together. Okay. So object-oriented programming, the way I have used um, this example for a while now, and I started using it before Elon Musk kind of went off the rails and started acting crazy. But I use the example of a Tesla. Okay, and the reason I use Tesla is because it's a Tesla. When you use the word Tesla, you could mean the company or you could mean the car, right? So you have a Tesla. It's the capital T. Tesla is the thing that produces individual Tesla. So I have a Tesla here. I don't know if you guys can see this. This is my Tesla. I used to teach on site, and my students bought this for me because I always use Tesla as an example. So this is my Tesla. Let's pretend like it's a real Tesla. Okay, so when Tesla decides to make a car, they plan it and they decide what that car is going to have, right? What attributes it's going to have. So when you look at object-oriented programming, and I forgot to talk about the assignments, I'll talk about that in a second. So the difference between an object and a class is a class is the blueprint and the object is the item created from that blueprint. Okay. Another analogy is a class is like the factory and the object is what's created from the factory. So in terms of Tesla, this is the class, right? This is the, and I stole this from the Tesla website, so I hope I don't get in trouble. But this is where you want to think of the classes, everything that goes into making a Tesla, right? So we can keep track of in the Tesla class, we can keep track of who the CEO is. We can keep track of how many Teslas we've made. And we can also keep track of all of the things that a Tesla, an individual, my Tesla will do, right? So think of the class as the company, the object is the individual dude's Tesla, right? Your Tesla, if it, your dream car, that's what the instance of a class is. That's the object. Okay. Does that make sense? Questions about this? Cool. All right. So we're going to make some Teslas. So I'm going to make, so I'm going to follow the paradigm that we're going to follow for the rest of the class. Basically, I'm going to have a main.java. The platform calls it test.java or test.cafe, whatever. But main is going to be our entry point, right? We're going to put all of our code somewhere else. So I'm going to make inside of the Tesla package, and basically a package is just a folder. That's a fancy concept, right? So inside of this package, I'm going to make my Tesla class. So I'm going to call it tesla.java. Okay. So I need you guys' help. What does a Tesla have? What are I'm not talking about what a Tesla does. I'm talking about what a Tesla has, like adjectives about a Tesla. So what would we want to keep track of if we're making a Tesla? Color.
String.
Cool. So string, color. What else?
String model.
String model. Cool.
String integer year.
Oh. There you go. Int year. And let's do a double odometer.
Do double for price too.
Sure. Yeah, we do. Should we do price or value? It doesn't matter. Let's do double price. Okay. So I've defined my properties, right? How do I make a Tesla? I have my class. I've got, I'm ready to start driving. So how do I make one? Where's the entry point for our application? If I want to get a Tesla to start doing stuff, where do I need to make it?
In main.
Main, right? Where in main?
After PVSM.
Right. We have to have our entry point, public static void main. So anything we want to actually run, we have to do it inside of this function or this method. So to make an instance of my Tesla, we're going to say, you know what? I'm going to start giving out Teslas. Carlos Tesla. How do I make one?
Need Tesla before Carlos.
Yep, exactly. Carlos Tesla is the variable. That variable is going to hold a Tesla. So I need to tell Java that. So this is going to be a Tesla.
New Carlos Tesla?
So not new Carlos Tesla, right? So we're going to say new, just the Tesla, right? Just like we did for algos today where we made a stack, right? So it's just Tesla, capital Tesla, okay? So how do I look at Carlos's Tesla's year?
Carlos Tesla.
Right. So let's do the S out. Carlos Tesla dot year. And what do we think that's going to be?
Nothing.
Yeah, I didn't set it, right? So it's going to set to the default, which is, I think it's a 0. Yeah. So if we don't set it, it's going to have the default value. So if strings, I think default to null. No, strings default to an empty string. Other objects default to null. And I think those numerical values just default to 0. So how do I give Carlos's Tesla a year?
We need to make it in Tesla.java.
Good.
Make
So
a
we can
use
make it
of
in Tesla.java. So I could set it here, right? I could just say year equals I was going to give you one that hasn't been invented yet. So 2023. Oh, equals. Right. So now when I run this code, it's going to show me 2023, which makes more sense. But what's the problem with this?
It would be for
All of them?
every Tesla.
Every Tesla we ever make ever is going to be a 2023. So next year we're going to be making old Teslas. So we don't want to hard code it here.
Mhm.
So
Wouldn't
how
you
do
have
we
to
make
pass it in as an argument?
good? So we can pass it in as an argument. We can decide, hey, when we make a Tesla, we want to decide what color it is, what model it is, all that stuff, right? So how did we do this in Python? If we had a bank account in Python, how did we give it properties? So I've already got a main.py. So let's do this here. So I'm going to say class Tesla. Did I spell that wrong? TES Tesla. How would I give it properties in Python? It wasn't that long ago. You guys don't remember?
This,
It was
Okay, not this. It's self, right? So we
Self.
need it. Right, we need the dunder init. And if we want to give a Tesla properties, we say the self has to be the first, and then we say color, year. What else did I say? Whatever, right? You guys get the idea. And then down here we would say self.color equals color, and so on, right? So we want the equivalent of this in Java. So what does anybody know what the equivalent of the dunder init is in Java?
Didn't you
is
say it was
public.
like this keyword?
We're going to use this keyword, but to make it so in Python, the dunder init is what's known as a constructor, right? In Java, JavaScript, it's actually called constructor, as we saw earlier. In Java, we create a method with the same name as the class itself. So I'm just going to say public Tesla. Okay. Then we can decide what, if anything, if we want to pass in and set when we create our Tesla. So if we want to set the color, we would just pass in color. Oops. What do I have to do? String color. If we want to set the model, we can say string model. Okay. And then inside here, we'll just do this dot color equals color. This dot model equals model. Okay. So as soon as I hit save, watch what happens in main. Immediately get an error. Did I misspell it? TESLA. No, good. So why am I getting the error?
Because it's trying to access the constructor.
It's trying to access the constructor. But what does the constructor take? What do I need to give the constructor?
Inside the new Tesla.
Yeah, I got to say what color it is and what the model is, right? So the reason this didn't error out before is because if we don't define a constructor, if I comment this out, if we don't define a constructor, Java gives us one. The compiler will automatically give us what's known as a no-art constructor, right? It'll just give us a constructor that'll make an object. As soon as we define this, it goes away. It takes away that no-art constructor. Okay. So I want to pass in the color in the model. So Carlos, what color do you want?
Blue.
Blue. And I don't know the models. Does anybody know a Tesla model?
Model S.
3. Yes, yeah.
Model S? Like that? Cool. So now when we run system.out.println Carlos Tesla.year, well, we're not going to see the year. Let me change this to color. So we get blue. I think. Yeah, there it is. Blue. My terminal's so jumpy. Okay. What about year, odometer, and price? What would year be? It should still be 0.
It'll be 0, wouldn't it?
Yeah, yeah. So what if we wanted to set the year, but we didn't want the user to be able to pick? How could we set the year?
You can just hard code it.
We could hard code it, or we could just set it in the constructor. We could just say this dot year
Right.
equals 2023. Okay, so now when we run this, we get the year of 2023.
So if you wanted to get all of these, would you just do Carlos Tesla.year.color.model over and over and over again? Or would we have to
If I
print
wanted
it
to
out
get,
every
oh,
time?
if I hold on to that question, I'll come back to that. Actually, no, let me answer that now. Let's just see what Carlos's Tesla looks like. So I'm going to print Carlos's Tesla without any attributes. Let's just see what we get. So we get this. oop.tesla.tesla@4612 blah blah blah. Does everybody know what that is?
It's the memory location.
Memory location. Yeah, that's the memory location in my computer where Carlos's Tesla is stored. Okay, so if I make another Tesla, who else wants a Tesla? I'm giving out Teslas.
John.
Did I spell your name right? Brian. Brian's
That was funny.
Tesla. Cool. So let's look at Brian's Tesla. It doesn't like the spelling of your name, but I'll teach it in a second. So when I run this, this is Carlos's Tesla. This is Brian's Tesla. They're two different things because they have two different memory locations, right? So if I were to S out Carlos's Tesla equals Brian's Tesla, false. They're not the same object. They're identical in terms of color and model, right? They're both blue Model S's, but they're two distinct objects. Just like if I had this Tesla and I had another one, two different things.
I have a question.
Yeah.
What would it be like? And I don't know what the sense in this would be. It's just curiosity. If you were to give them the same variable name, like if you had two Carlos Tesla, would they have the same memory then?
Ooh, good question. I like it. So I'm going to be lazy. I like the way you think. Cool. So I'm going to make another Tesla. It's going to be Brian's Tesla. But I'm just going to set it equal to Carlos's Tesla. Why is that giving me an error? Duplicate local variables. Where? Oh, I already made it up here. I think I deleted the wrong thing. There we go. So now let's see. I'm not sure what we're going to get. We get true. And if I print out, that's what I deleted. I deleted the wrong thing. SOUT Brian's Tesla. And then I'll print out Carlos's Tesla. They should have the exact same. Hello, there we go. Yep, they're exactly the same. So it's the same car. Right? So if I do Carlos's Tesla dot color equals pink, and I S out Brian's Tesla dot color, what color is it going to be?
Pink.
Pink. It's the same car. Okay, so when we do this, that's what I was also talking about yesterday. When we store objects in memory, we don't store the object, we store a reference to it. It's kind of like we're putting a leash on a dog, right? It's not the dog, it's what points to the dog. Okay. Good question. Any other questions? I guess, John, I should ask, does that answer your question?
Yeah, that answers that.
Cool.
I have one. When you set the 2023 for this year, is that like a default value? If you don't pass a year, it's gonna default for 2023, but you still can define a year if you want to.
Good. You guys, it's always like you guys are reading my mind. That's exactly where I was going to go next. So what if we do want to let the user pick a year when we create a Tesla? What if we want to let them specify the year? So what we can do is what's known as method overloading. So I can say public Tesla, and as long as these two methods have different signatures, meaning different, the return type doesn't matter, but there is no return type, but as long as they have different parameters, then I can specify as many arguments as I want. So if I want to just do it the easy way. I'm going to duplicate this one. And I can add as a parameter, if I could type, put my finger on that, int year. Did I spell model? Did I spell that wrong?
No.
L just looks weird. Okay. So now I can handle the situation where I make a Tesla and I only know the color and the model. I have a situation where I can make a Tesla with the color, model, and year. I can even remake the NOR constructor. I can say public Tesla and just have it be empty. Okay, does that answer your question, Fernanda?
Kind of. It's more like so first you said Boo and Model S for Carlos Tesla, right?
Yeah.
And you have the year as like a default of 2023.
Right.
But if you want to have like the default as 2023, but then you're gonna create a new car and you're gonna pass through a year. If you don't pass, it's gonna reset as 2023. But if you do pass, and then it's gonna reset it. That's what I asked, if that would work as well.
Okay, so the only way we could do that is with the overloaded constructor. So if I wanted to be able to pass in the year, then I would need an additional constructor for whatever I want to pass in. Okay, so now if I make a Tesla, let's make them, I'll remake Brian's Tesla. Now if I pass in right? 2024s are out, I think. So Brian has a brand new Tesla, right? So if I want to pass it in, I would call this constructor, right? Java just is going to know, because of the arguments that I've passed in, which constructor I'm calling. Okay. Does that answer your question?
And then if
Yeah?
you
Okay.
don't pass the 2024 year, it's gonna default as 2023.
Yes. Well, if I call this constructor. So if I make another constructor, I'm sorry, another Tesla. I want to spell your name. Hernandez. What color? Oh, I'm sorry, not what color. What year is your Tesla going to be?
0.
Yeah. Dot year. Turn that cap lock off. Tesla year. Cool. So if I run this, what did I do? I broke something. Ah, here we have a teachable moment. What is this called? Anybody know what this is called?
Duplicate variable.
Yeah. Well, what this is called the stack trace. It's called I messed up. So we want to look at our stack traces. It's basically it crashed at line 12. So I can look at, and you guys know this, I should, but yeah. So the issue, and it actually told me, so I can delete that. That should fix it. Cool. So your year is 0. Sorry. I'll get you a new Tesla.
But
Any other
then could
questions?
it like pass the color as blue and model, and then it's default as a year since I'm not passing the year?
So if you passed in a color, what color do you want?
White.
White. It doesn't know what I'm talking about, because I don't have a constructor that only takes color. So in order to be able to do this and only select the color and have everything else default, I would need a constructor that only took the color. So I'd have to say public Tesla string color, and then this dot color equals color. So as soon as I make that constructor, why didn't it go away?
So the
There
Java
we go.
doesn't take default values.
No. The way Java handles default is overloading. So if you
Okay.
want to have different arguments passed in or different things, then you have to overload the method.
I see.
Any other questions?
I have a small question. It's kind of like a detailed question, and
That's
this
okay.
is definitely a quick one. Is it convention to have your system out all the way at the bottom after everything, everything you've created, or would it be better practice to have your system out after, like directly after you made that instance?
It doesn't really matter. That's just where I'm putting them. I mean, this isn't a real production. I'm just demonstrating what happens. I mean, it definitely has to go after. Like I couldn't S out Fernandez Tesla until I make it, but it doesn't really matter where they go.
Okay, that was like my question.
Cool. Any other questions? All right. So what I want, this is getting long. Let me stop and start.